Hello, trading has closed on the 8th of July, 2024. We always begin with our disclaimer, go over our calls, and then make our predictions. So my trading plan for Tuesday, which is July 9th, 2024. Please remember my calls can be wrong. Trade at your own risk. I have personal business on and off several times this month. I'll have some later this week and won't be able to watch the market all day long. Well, here's what we said. We were looking for the pattern with the early low. Tomorrow should have the early high. I said we had a number of things calling for a top here, but until it turned around, I was going to keep my powder dry. Keeping one's powder dry means not to do anything until you see what happens. We closed essentially unchanged, a difference of 5 points, so no call was the right call. And when we close unchanged, I just repeat my call from the previous day. We have the elements for a top here, but until we top out, I'm not going to do anything. It could be a top and it could be overextended in terms of price, could be overextended in terms of time, or it could fail, and if it fails big. During the day, MEJT said this move was false, price would retrace, which they did. We do have an optional target, 5578.63. It doesn't have to print tomorrow, and if it doesn't, we'll forget it. But a computer analysis of the pattern over a period of a year showed it printed 95% of the time. 95% isn't 100, but it's still likely to print. Again, it's not required. Well, here's how we were counting this. We've now confirmed the breakout over this line, which is positive. But if you move B over to here, you can still have an ABC with good fibs. The longer we go without dropping, the less enthusiastic I am. But if we do drop, which I can't say we will, but if we do, there's a count which explains it. Well, we're in Tom DeMark's area for a top here, but until we top out, I'm not going to risk any money. We have all these targets here. I know from past experience the odds are overwhelming. These are going to print at some time, but when they don't print in their preferred time frame, and the one for today didn't, they don't have to print anytime soon. There's nothing in the system that says we can't go higher first. Now, tomorrow's pattern has a really high regardless of where we open. Typically, it's a rally day with a final hour high, and if we fail, it's a straight line drop. According to DeMark's work, we're in an overextended area. If we are to collapse in terms of price, ideally, we should drop significantly within 3 trading days. And we've had 2, and that hasn't happened. So time hasn't run out yet, but it looks pretty unlikely to me. So no collapse based on that criteria. We got a number of factors compatible with a short-term high Friday, and we didn't drop. Now, gapping down smartly makes up for that, but that hasn't happened yet. And when one has a good setup for a top, and we don't drop immediately, usually it doesn't pay to wait around too long for that to happen. We're still in a bull market, and until it reverses, I don't think you have to risk any money on the short side. Now, we could still correct here in terms of time rather than price. Big move in either direction kills the idea, of course, but for now I think that's the most likely scenario. I just can't say it's absolutely required. At some time, we should trade both lower and higher than we are now. We have these lower targets that should print at some time. I have much higher targets for later in the year. Right now, it makes the most sense to me if we just piddle around back and forth and don't do very much, but it's not required. I'm hoping tomorrow straightens things out. It's usually a good rally or a good drop, and sometimes you have to wait until Wednesday's open to see which it is. I mean, if we start dropping like a stone here, everything is still in place, but that hasn't happened, and we had a good chance for it to happen, so I'm less convinced that will happen. I still prefer piddling around, consolidating, rather than a good rally, but that doesn't mean I'm going to risk any money on it. I'm still keeping my powder dry till I see if we break out of here. It's a pattern with the early high, and that's today's call.